is Ruel's Running Podcast, a podcast about running, health, family, play, and an NSNG lifestyle. And now, here's your host, Ruel.
Excuse me as I rock on. That's Went Away by Dorothy Lane. Dorothy Lane out of Martinez, California. That's out of the Cut and Dry album. Check them out at dorothylanemusic.com. Yeah. Hello world, welcome to Ruel's Running Podcast. I'm your host, Ruel Abadam. Hey guys, it's See You Later 2018, and this is the first episode of 2019. Welcome to Ruel's Running Podcast, a podcast, as you heard, about all of that stuff. Running, living an NSNG lifestyle, family, play, all that good stuff. Just basically life as I see it. And thanks for being here. Thanks for sticking around. If you are a new listener, thank you and Happy New Year. If you were an old listener, not old as an age, but because age doesn't matter. But if you are a veteran listener, if you're familiar with this podcast, if you are a new listener, welcome, and welcome. Oh my God, how's everybody doing? It is a fresh new start, at least from where I sit. What does that mean? It means that I am physically making my way into the office. What does it mean? It means that the kids start back into school. I have 13 kids, and they're all in school today. And as far as I can tell, no tears as far as drop-offs and send-offs. And I was talking about me. No tears. Yeah. And what else does it mean? It means that we wrapped up the family. I didn't wrap up the family, but I wrapped up spending time with the family for the New Year's, for the holidays, and all of the stuff that has gone on. Yeah. I don't know about you guys, and I'm hoping that you guys had something great that had gone on for the new year, and you took a much-needed break, as some of us do around this time of the year, or that time of the year, because that is past and it's all gone. See ya. But, I haven't had time to, as you can tell, to send off a episode the past week, maybe past couple weeks. There's just so much stuff. What kind of stuff had been going on? Well, we had 2 family get-togethers for the holiday. One was for sort of like my brother-in-law, my family, my brother-in-law and his family, and my sister-in-law and her family. That's our closest of family members around where we live. And then prior to that, the week before, we did a family get-together with the same folks, but with also extended it out to cousins and other extended family. We also did some other activities around thechocolatedozen.com. So, good times, good fun, but it does take an effort to remember what has all occurred. There was a holiday party that I attended, my wife's company, so that was something new, and it was another one of those festive things that happened during this period. And for my company, we have one coming up this week, and I RSVP'd, and then I un-RSVP'd, if that makes sense. I accepted, I said yes, and then I went back in a few days later and realized, no, just not going to work out, and for reasons of, I'm going to describe as, family reunion. it that way. And so I can't attend the company party. But it's one of those things where there was so much stuff going on, and I'm not trying to brag. I'm just trying to describe the situations, because in all honesty, it's kind of a shame when, as far as special events are concerned, when they're stacked up back to back to back, there isn't a whole lot of time to process it. It's just time to prep and experience it, and then on to the next thing. And things happen so fast, and next thing you know, you kind of forget that you did things, and so there never really is that time to savor what could be considered special moments. So, but I guess, when you're talking New Year, or when you're talking about wrapping up a year, that's kind of a good way to go, compared to other years where nothing happens. Before there were kids, before there was family, before there was marriage, it was sort of like, okay, what do we do? And before we were really connected with a whole bunch of other cousins and whatnot. It's a different time. But yeah, so anyways, what we did was we had these 2 big holiday parties at home, and then we took a trip to Southern California, and it ended up being in stages. One, we stayed in a place called Camarillo, and that was just a one-night stay. But the drive there was its own adventure, right? And while down there, we visited some close family, not technically family, but their family nonetheless. Spent time with them, and they were in Oxnard, and that was also a different stage of this trip. It was wonderful. And then back to the hotel in Camarillo, did the overnight, and the next day checked out and made our way to Anaheim, and we spent a couple days at Disneyland. And it's the usual. I've described it in other podcast episodes where, how our family operates doing a Disneyland trip. We'll find a place near the park with a kitchen, and we'll stock up with some essentials as far as grocery items, and we'll do meal prep in the hotel room, and makes it easy. I mean, the hotel does have free breakfasts in the morning, which is nice to have around, but we didn't seem to get into any of that. Maybe there were some small things, but it wasn't like a big thing in the morning to head down to the breakfast place. They have a decent breakfast, decent spread, a decent dining area for breakfast. But yeah, we did that, and we enjoyed time in the parks, and I have to sit down like this to talk about it on a podcast so that I can actually remember it and savor it. Because after we spent our time in Anaheim, we made our way to Long Beach, and actually, correction, not planned, but had contacted a cousin of mine in Southern Cal, and said that we were in Anaheim, and that if they were available, how about we meet up for the New Year, and because we were spending the New Year in Anaheim. As a matter of fact, we rang in the New Year at a event at a Disneyland hotel, which we've done a couple of years in the past. But yeah, I reached out to my cousin, and she agreed to meet up the day after New Year's, and they met us at our hotel. We just hung out in the hotel room. We thought we would do things like go out and grab a bite to eat somewhere else, but they have 3 kids, one of which is a teenager, and my family has 3 kids, so it just seemed less work to just keep all of the little ones in the hotel room, and we just had the time to catch up and not have to worry about where the little ones are going. And we just, got some takeout and whatever food we had prepped in the hotel room, and just enjoy time at the hotel. It was good. And then the following day was our trip to Long Beach. So, what that was about was my wife had scheduled a cruise to Mexico, and the cruise ship was docked at Long Beach and Long Beach Harbor, I guess you call it. And so we were making our way there. And we realized that, and it was brought up actually in conversation when my cousin was at the hotel, that they're only several minutes away from Long Beach, and if we wanted to, we could just drive over to their place, stash all of our excess, bags and stuff with them, even leave our vehicle with them at their place, and we would just pack our cruise luggage. We had to split up our luggage because we couldn't take all of the stuff, so we had a subset of our baggage with us, and they would, my cousin's husband would take us to the port. So it was neat. We didn't have to worry about long-term parking, and we didn't have to worry about whether or not our vehicle and the contents of our vehicle, like half of our baggage in it, was going to be safe or not. So they took care of us. My cousin took care of us. We kept our stuff safe with them, and we got a ride to the port. So that itself was another sort of stage of the vacation, of the trip, and it was fun. And it's really enjoyable when you get to catch up with cousins. We grew up together back in Guam. They happen to live in Carson. They have 3 kids, as previously mentioned. So, to see her again and to see how big her kids have grown, and to be able to connect with them, it's really special. But, on to the cruise. This was the first cruise for the family. I've never been on a cruise ship. My wife, the kids, it's all new. And this was a test, and the cruise was for 3 days, And it went down to Mexico, stopped at Ensenada. And as a test, it was just, can we be okay, going through the motions of getting on this cruise and experiencing the cruise? Will we enjoy it? And we already made a decision that when we got to Ensenada, that we weren't going to do an excursion or anything like that. Just didn't want to deal with, having watching the kids a little bit more than usual, because we're just scared, right? We're scared of new places, some new country for all of us, and I'm sure it's fine and all, but we weren't prepared to do an excursion as part of this test of a cruise. We just wanted the ship experience. We did get out of the ship at Ensenada and just hung out at the dock for a little bit, and there's no sort of border or customs or any of that passport action when we get on the dock. You can just kind of see what's there. There are some vendors that had set up earlier, and you get to just take a look at the ship from the dock, and that was pretty much it. And got back in the boat and spent a lot of time. Cabin accommodations are new for all of us, and they're pretty snug and compact. Getting familiar with the ship. I think after the first day is sort of like shock, not in a bad way, but trying to understand the flow of things, where things are, where you can go for the things you need, like, coffee, water, and mealtime, and bathrooms, and all that stuff. And it was a great experience for the 3 days for the test. There are definitely things that, if we were to do a cruise again, that now that we have this experience, there's definitely things that we would be better at. One of the things is we would pack differently. We had like small luggage for each of the kids, and then a standard luggage for my wife and I separately. So that was 5 pieces of luggage for each member, and there were a few hand carry items. So that's just a lot. That was a lot. We would have packed differently as far as what items to bring. But that happens, I think, even regardless of if it's a cruise. All right. Anyways, that was my long 15 minutes on how I wrapped up the 2018 with the family, and here we are, 2019, the first podcast of the year. I'm excited. I have no plans of how this podcast is going to go for 2019, but it's here, and I'm doing it. I have no sort of programs or publishing calendars or agendas or anything to sell you. I don't have any of that to sell. I don't have any particular thing to push your way. It's just what it's always been. It's, hey, this is me, family guy. I run a little bit, and I try to live as NSNG as possible. And let's get into that. What in the world is cooking? I've been cooking tons of stuff for wrapping up 2018, and it ain't all NSNG, but I'll talk about the NSNG stuff because it's awesome. And one is rib roast, and I've talked about it actually in the past. I love the rib roast, and that's my go-to roast as far as the holidays. There was a spiralized ham, which was store-bought. It was already pre-cooked. It was just a matter of heating it through. That, you can debate being NSNG because, as it was served, it wasn't NSNG, but, I could have made it NSNG. I didn't get into the rib roast because I've talked about it ad nauseum in other episodes, using butter and a bunch of herbs and garlic, and how I have it kind of sit out overnight to room temp, all salted up and blah, 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 and getting the internal temp at roasting time to 120, 122 at a 350 degree temperature, and carving it over some herbed butter and all that good stuff. Wonderful. Save the bones for bone broth. But the ham was actually pretty good. It was pretty nice. We used the big Instant Pot to put the ham in and heat it through using the pressure cooker, and that was only a matter of minutes with a little bit of water for moisture in it, and it heated it through nice and good. And for serving, this is where it doesn't get NSNG. There was a sort of a bourbon glaze that after I took it out of the Instant Pot, I put it on a sort of a roasting pan, and I put the glaze over the ham, and I stuck it in the oven to allow that glaze to sort of brown up a bit. And the ham was nice and moist from what I heard, and we were actually applauded for serving up, taking on a couple of those roasts. One roast is a challenge enough, but to do a couple, I technically didn't do a ham. It was already done. I just heated it up in a way that didn't dry it out. So Instant Pot, it's definitely handy, and not as a fad, but as a legit item to have in your kitchen. As a matter of fact, we have we've been running with two, a big one and your standard one, if that even makes any sense. But we were gifted for Christmas a smaller one, so we've got small, medium, and large Instant Pots. If that even sounds like something, it's like a whole family of Instant Pots. I think it's a 3-quart. I think it's perfect for sauces and other small things. And if you are an apartment, if you don't have a lot of counter space, not if you are an apartment, because it would be huge, but if you live in an apartment that may not have a lot of counter space, or you just happen to live in a place without much of a counter, the Instant Pot may do it for you. You know, my thing is, if you wanted to get an Instant Pot, get one that you probably want to do a whole chicken, and you need the 5-quart. I think that's what it's called, 5 or 6 quart. But maybe that might be too much chicken for you. Maybe you can just stand to just get a few cuts of chicken, and then you can do it in a small Instant Pot. So, anyways, the roast, that's all that's been cooking, and I won't get into all the other stuff. But last night I did the usual for my son. He's a big fan of eating a whole fried fish, and I know folks might think like, fried fish, that's disgusting, but no, fish is delicious. Fish is good for you. But fried, I fry his fish in bacon grease. I save almost all of our bacon grease, and I have a separate pan, and I'll put a lot of bacon grease, and I'll heat it up in a pan. Then I'll take a whole cleaned out fish, put some, cut up some slits on the side, salt and pepper, and get that thing nice and crispy. Have it sit out after I fry it. I fry it covered too, so I can, only the bottom half of the fish is sitting in the bacon grease frying up, and then the other half that's exposed can kind of go through a steam process. So, and I flip it, and I just kind of watch it, But that's my kid's thing. He's into that. He just goes to town on a whole fried fish, and the fish is bigger than his face. It's so big. Yeah. So that's what's been cooking. And speaking of Instant Pot, yesterday I took some of those prime rib bones that were from the rib roast that I had saved in the freezer. I stuck them in the Instant Pot with some saved chicken bones and some beef marrow bones bought from a store, and threw in a whole onion, chopped up, celery, carrots, a bunch of herbs, and a few spices, and made some new bone broth, which I missed because of the cruise. Don't have it on a cruise. There's a lot of things I missed, and while out on vacation, and to be able to get home and get back into it, it's good. As far as what that's meant, I'm going to slide into health. I'm not myself. I need a complete sort of reset, reboot. In a lot of ways, I have weight that I could stand to get off. Folds. What's folds? Clothes aren't fitting the way they used to fit. Fortunately, I can still get in them, but I would like for them to fit a different way. And I'm not going to be fooled by thinking they're shrinking in the dryer, because it's not the clothes, it's me expanding. So being off vacation definitely can help with that. Getting it trying to get on a regular exercise routine, getting back into it. Yeah, I need to get back into it, definitely. Starting to think, I haven't put a whole lot of thought into how I want to approach running, but I am thinking about doing a 50K next month, one that I've done in the past couple years, but I'm nowhere ready for it, so I need to really prepare. So I'm just going to hop right into the run section. In February is the Lake Chabot trail adventure. I forget what it's called, but the good folks at Inside Trails host that one. They direct that one, and I've done it in the past couple of years, and I've done it spectacularly and horribly at the same time, where I've come in dead last, either as an official dead last or an unofficial dead last. Either way, last as fuck. And so it's a miserable time for me, right? But exciting and fun as well. And I want to do it again, but I'm nowhere in shape. So I need to think about how I'm going to approach getting ready for that. I'm also thinking that as successful as I want to be on that run, I also want to use it as a way to prepare for a different 50K in May. And in May is the Ohlone 50K Wilderness Challenge or Trail Adventure. I forget exactly how it's described, but that I did last year for the very first time. I really enjoyed it, and I came in dead last. Unofficial dead last. Not official dead last, but unofficial. So, despite all of the dead last finishes, I enjoy being out there and testing myself, putting myself through the pain and the suffering, and then amidst it all, wonder why I'm putting myself through it. It's ridiculous, right? But that's just how it is. And so I have some gear. I'm going to head to San Francisco. I'm going to find some time, middle of the day, and, get some running. I did do some stretching last night. I was hoping to do more of a workout, but I haven't really put much thought into it as far as timing it. I was too busy cleaning the, what do you call it? That thing that's over the stove that has the vent and the lights, the hood, the hood over the stove. I was cleaning that thing because there was tons of grease buildup because where the fans are, where the vents are, there are these grates or grills that you can remove, and what they do is they accumulate this grease, and it kind of comes down like a cone, and there's a little trap that catches some of the grease, and then in addition to that, there's an additional trap for other, somehow grease makes its way up there, and these things catch it. But they get pretty caked on, so I spent a lot of my time working on using a Goo Gone product to loosen all of that stuff up and clean it out and do good cleaning. So that took my time away. And then when I was done with all of that, I realized, oh man, I could have been, I wanted to do some leg work. I think I want to do some strength work on my legs, but I also need to do some some stretching. A while back, I injured my right calf from skateboarding, and hurt it really bad. And it started to hurt again over the vacation while we made our way to the cruise. Something about, I don't know what it was, but definitely started hurting. And so it still feels like I still feel like I need to work that out and recover and everything, either massage and stretching and some strength training and some rest. So I have some weights. I thought I could just take these 2 25-pound dumbbells, hold them in each hand, and do some stair work, because that felt like I could get some good leg action that way. But I didn't want to go into it cold, because now at this age, I know that I need to actually get some good blood flow going before I actually start to do some strenuous stuff. I need to be smarter about how I move, because especially now that I'm out of shape, my nutrition can stand to be tightened up. I'm kind of like rusty. That's the way I can describe it. If my nutrition is off, and I haven't been on a regular exercise routine, I'm just rusty. And the older you get, the rustier you are. So you gotta get that blood flowing, and that's sort of like greasing the gears. So some easy exercise to get things moving. So yeah, and I know that I'm not going to use the exercise as a reason to lose weight. Losing weight comes from what I put in my mouth, so I got to be better at that. So yeah, welcome to 2019. That's 2019 for me. no direction for the podcast, just a podcast. Happy to be here. As I find opportunities to have guests on, I'll have guests on. If I have something to promote because I think it's a good idea that people should hear about it, I'll do that. But I don't have it on the regular. Speaking of promote, check out the Service Guys podcast with Lonnie Beecham and myself. Lonnie Beecham is the service expert at Jefferson City, Missouri. He operates Restore It Restoration. That's restore-it-restoration.com. He's a service expert, and he is my co-host at Service Guys podcast. I'm just I'm just me, and I am the producer, and we have a good time with guests and learning about Lonnie's world and the service world. Last year the podcast was launched, and we got to talk about the cleanup and the restoration world, but also we got to talk to other folks who did other service work. We talked to Mark Thompson, a friend out of New Zealand who works in, generally wastewater or sewage or runoff, that type of stuff, but from a sort of a public standpoint, meaning I think large scale, like community type stuff. He's a civil engineer, if I'm not mistaken, and we talked to Sue Hill from out of Texas, who operates Cosmetic. So I'm promoting their stuff because they were kind enough to get on the podcast and share. So I'm sharing their stuff, or Lonnie and I are sharing their stuff. Lonnie finds great guests, and we get to talk to them on the podcast, and I always learn something from it. I was actually chatting yesterday briefly with Sue because I wanted to find out some information about skin care and hair care and all that stuff as it relates to things like in her world, cosmetic treatments and therapies and whatever. So there were several other more guests. We talked to a good friend, Vinny Tortorich, about what it's like as a fitness trainer and providing that service. We talked to Andy Schreiber, talked to him about the service he provides, operating businesses like Pure Vitamin Club and Pure Coffee Club. We spoke with another good friend, Anna Vicino, who you hear at the beginning of the podcast and you hear at the end. And sometimes, depending on the episode, you'll hear in the middle. And sometimes, if you're on the right old episode, you'll catch the actual interviews with her. I'll talk to her about what it's like to, operate a voiceover business, and voiceover acting business. What it's like to own a brand for a cookbook, and what's that like? A lot of good stuff. So those are a handful of the guests at the Service Guys podcast. Be sure to check them out at on iTunes and Apple Podcasts and wherever podcast things are, like Spotify. And Service Guys podcast with Lonnie Beecham and myself, Ruel. So see, I'm not promoting anything. I'm just sharing. I just got reminded that I pooped today. Have you pooped today? Today? Have you pooped yet? And maybe you're listening to this a little bit later. Did you poop? Why am I talking about poop? Well, as listeners know, I'm one of a team of admins at the Vinny Tortorich No Sugar No Grains Facebook group. And so for the new year, the Poop 30 challenge has been reinitiated. It was something that I invented years ago and had it in the group for fun. It was a spin-off. The name is a spin-off of the whole 30 brand. at the time there was a bunch of Whole30 this, Whole30 that, and I was kind of like making fun of it by saying poop 30. Why not poop 30? Poop 30. Like, it really isn't much of a challenge. It's more of sort of recognizing that important event of your life and your day, your existence, because we may just take it for granted. Not take it for granted, meaning we poop in our pants and we just go on with our day, but, you know, we may do it every day, multiple times a day, or sometimes some folks not every day. And paying a level of attention to it is related to health. So the Poop 30 challenge is, in my mind, funny to begin with, because I get to brand it with some stupid poop emoji, you know, or some stupid poop quote, all in the name of fun. And, you know, and this is something that everybody should be doing, pooping. And so there's no reason why you can't participate in a Poop 30 challenge. But in the group, the Poop 30 challenge is out there for 2019, doing it, labeling it month by month. So right now we're smack dab in the middle of January's Poop 30 challenge. And so as a participant, what do? You know, you just go on your day. And when you take a dump, you know it, you can go on the thread and say, done. You know? Or in your way, sort of just chime in to as a way to check in that the brown stuff has checked out. And so that's all fun. You know, a lot of people crack jokes about it, but there's also a helpful aspect to the challenge, and that is where, you know, it's made people mindful of where they're at as far as their movements, you know, and some people in the past have talked about how, you know, they have a real medical issue as far as going number 2. And none of us, I'm not definitely a poop expert. I'm not a physician. You know, I just know my own poop and my own self. And a lot of the folks in the group aren't doctors or anything, but we do. We're there to, I guess, support each other. You know, one member years ago really had a problem with having to go to the have, you know, bowel movement, right? And everyone was just trying to support and give, like ask questions, and it was just basically a place for this person to go to openly talk about it, as comfortable as she was with it. And I like to think that sort of helped, right? It helps folks. It also helps folks when those sort of conversations happen in the thread. It can help folks look at themselves and analyze themselves and say, oh, okay, so that can happen then. And people are talking about what types of food may help, what types of supplements may help, what types of actions you should take when you know that, you know, there's a problem and that the problem's gotten to a certain point. And then we also get to learn about, you know, as people describe what goes on, you know, when it gets to a point where you have an issue and you have to go to see a doctor, what type of conversations are being had, what type of recommendations are being given by, you know, medical professionals on taking care of yourself and helping things along, you know, and you know, there's a happy story at times where people are like, after over a week of not being able to poop for whatever medical reason, it's like, you know, they get better and they're having successes. And I know you don't often hear about poop and success at the same time, but there's poop success in Poop 30. And so just wanted to let you guys know, pay attention to your poop. And Poop 30 in this Facebook group has been designed to just make it possible for folks to have a good time and to pay attention to a very important function that we all have in the name of health and fun. And yeah, that's that. So I talked about poop. I talked about running. I talked about gaining weight and health and exercise. I talked about some food. I talked about family stuff. So I think I got it all covered. Yeah, I think so. So once again, happy 2019. I hope everybody has a good start for the year. I'm not getting into goals or resolutions. Just haven't. And in the past I have, but I think if I were to say that what my goal is for the year, it would just to just be better. Just be better and get through stuff, and at the end of the day be able to feel happy, be with my family. That's pretty much it. And and if there's a podcast that I did, be happy that I put one out, and be happy that I have you guys there as listeners. And I hope, speaking of the podcast, I hope that you guys know that you can reach out on social. You can reach out on the website. You can reach out, so the website is ruelsrunning.com. There's a bunch of links there. And there are different ways that you can try to reach me. Should you need to reach me, ask a question, ask a favor. I don't know. If I can help, I can help. If there's something I can help with. If you want me to talk about something that you think that the listeners could stand to benefit from, and I think, yeah, sure. Let me know. And I think that's an episode. Hey guys, thanks for sticking around. Thanks for being here. I really appreciate all that you have done to support, tune in, and care about, the stuff that I have to offer and share on this podcast. So I'm going to bid you goodbye on this episode, the first episode of the year, 2019. Eat something delicious, hug your friends, hug your family, and go run something. Bye.
Thanks for listening to Ruel's Running Podcast with Ruel. If you like what you just heard, share it with your friends and your enemies. Also, be sure to check out the site over at ruelsrunning.com. This has been another Coffee with Heavy Cream production. Join us next time for another silly show of Ruel's Running Podcast.